Hey guys, first Adam here, bringing you another tutorial video for the Demon Hunter. Ever since Season 3 was released, the new set items have been out, and I've been playing around with them a little bit, along with some of the other classes as well, but ultimately, the Demon Hunter is still my favorite class to play, with even the new builds. So I'm just going to kind of go through a real quick, short guide, and just kind of go through my setup. So the set that I use is the unhallowed set, unhallowed essence. Pretty much what this does, the two set your just normal hatred generators also generate discipline. The 4 set gives a damage increase and a toughness increase, which is really nice. As you can see down here, you can see that it's constantly refreshing itself unless if an enemy is within 10 yards, and then in which case I have 4 seconds to get away from him. So it doesn't drop off immediately, which is really nice. So it's always up and never goes away. The main damage dealer is the 6 set bonus. Your generators and multi-shot deal 15% increased damage for every point of discipline you have. So pretty much what this means is you just need to get as much discipline as you possibly can. So first off, before we get into anything else, let me just go through the abilities that I use. So to generate focus, hatred, I use evasive fire with focus. You can also use entangling shot, and you can use chain gang, or you can even use justice's serve to get a little bit extra more hatred. But evasive fire with focus gives you 1 more hatred rather than Justice's Serve, which is only 6. But the nice thing about this is you can proc your Band of the Trapped with this ability here. So, which can be useful, but I still like to stick with evasive fire with focus just because I need hatred pretty often. You know, when you're in a big boss fight and greater rifts and stuff like that, you don't want to sit there. The less downtime you have, the better. So I like to use evasive fire with focus, which is still exactly the same as you would with the Marauder set. Next, your main damage is going to be multi-shot with Arsenal. You can use these other ones, but you're not going to do as much damage. I mean, you could use suppression fire, knock back enemies, and then you can use like strong arm bracers, but still you're not going to be doing as much damage. So it's best to go with Arsenal, because you fire off 3 rockets that deal 300% weapon damage. That 300% weapon damage is then increased by 100% with the passive ballistics. So it does 600% weapon damage. And so, multi-shot does initial 360 and then additional 600. So lots of damage right off the bat. I still use Vault with Tumble. That way just, quick get around, get out of bad situations and stuff. I have that as my number 1. My number 2, I use Preparation with Invigoration. This increases your maximum discipline by 15, so you are no longer using punishment, which restores hatred. So you are losing a hatred ability, so a generator. So you can't, when you went back with my cold build that I did with my M6 Demon Hunter, you needed this because you were just running through so much hatred with Cluster Arrow. Nice thing is, since we're using multi-shot cost 50, or I should say more like 40% less hatred. Costs 25, whereas Clustered Arrow cost 40. Now, I do have a little bit of resource cost reduction, not a whole lot. I think only around like 16% or so. So this is really only going to cost me about 20 hatred, which is really nice because when I have 150, I can get off quite a few shots. So preparations with Invigoration. The Companion. I use the Bat Companion for now just because it gives me an instant 50 hatred when I'm in dire need, and it restores 1 hatred per second. Though if you're not really having a problem with hatred, like if you're running in a group or something, you have DPS Witch Doctor or Monk or other people that are doing other things for you, and they're picking up health globes, your Reaper Wraps can sustain you just fine. And in which case you can do the Wolf Companion for the extra damage for your entire team, so taking down main bosses and elite packs goes much quicker. But solo, I recommend just doing Bat Companion. But like I said, it's up to you. If you have much higher resource cost reduction, the 30-40%, then you don't need Bat Companion. Go with Wolf Companion. So, next is Vengeance with Sheath. This is really nice because Vengeance, you shoot off 4 basically you do additional 4 additional piercing shots that do 6% weapon damage, but you also shoot off 4 homing rockets, and those rockets are increased to 80% weapon damage because of your passive. So it doesn't do a whole lot. What you really use this for, I mean, you do see a huge damage increase when switching to this because unlike your other abilities that shoot out rockets, all 4 rockets and all 4 piercing shots on top of your multi-shot and those rockets will hit the same target. Now, like with multi-shot, if I shoot those 3 rockets that I shoot off, only one of them is going to hit the target. The other 2 are just going to go wander off somewhere. If there's no enemies around, they just disappear. So with Sheath, every single rocket and additional shots that this shoots off hit the same target, so you don't have any wasted space. So it does add up. It does add like 50 million extra damage per hit, which is quite nice. That can actually be multiplied more. It's probably more like 100 million damage for me the way I have everything set up. Now, for passives, your passives you can play with a little bit depending on what you're doing. If you're farming XP and stuff, then you want to switch your passives up a little bit different than what I have. The passives I have set up now is pretty much for greater rift pushing. There are 2 different ways I can do greater rift pushing. I've been testing them out, and ultimately, what I've been trying to decide is it better to take the boss down a little evenly over time? Because with multi-shot, I'm going to get into one piece of gear real quick, is used in Admin's Legacy. When an enemy is below 50 to 60%, depending how it rolls, health, your multi-shot hits twice, which does insane damage. You absolutely see the difference. As soon as they hit that mark, boom, their health just starts falling off in huge chunks. So a lot of people are combining this with the ambush ability. So you're dealing 40% additional damage when they're above 75% health, and then you want to try to get a quiver with 60%, so that way it limits the window. Right now I have a 19%, 24% window. So that 24% of their health between 75 and 51%, I'm just doing normal damage to it. When they're above that, I'm doing 40% extra. When they're below that, when they're below 51, I'm doing double damage to them. But what I'm thinking is, and I've switched this out. I use ambush for other reasons as well. But when I'm greater rift pushing, I like to switch this to Call of the Week. And the reason why is because this is a 20% damage all around when they're above 51% health and below. Whereas ambush, once they go below 75% health, just does absolutely nothing. So in terms of like clearing trash and stuff, this is great because you're always going to have units that are above 75% health and you can almost one-shot them. But when you get to a Rift Guardian, once they fall below 75% health, this is one ability that just sits there and does absolutely nothing for you. So I like to use Call of the Week. A lot of people will use Call of the Week over Steady Aim. But I like to use Steady Aim and Call of the Week. That's a 40% damage increase rather than doing Ambush and Call of the Week. Next is Awareness. Obviously, for greater rift pushing, you want to run this. But let's take a look at just T6. If I was going to do T6, I switch this up a little bit. I use Archery instead of Awareness because T6, you don't really die. If you die in T6, you need to relook at your gear. There's something wrong. If you're able to push 35 plus greater rifts, you should not be dying in T6 regular rifts. So in regular rifts, I like to run Archery just because I use a bow, so that's 8% increased damage. If you have a crossbow, this is going to be even a bigger damage increase. And if you're using 2 one-handers, you get 5% critical chance and 1 hatred per second. So you get kind of 2 bonuses with that. That's actually kind of new. I don't know how new, but it used to be only 5% crit chance. They added in that 1 hatred at some point. Don't know when though. So the build I have set up here, this is pretty much for just T6 pushing, and these are basically how you want your abilities set up. So if you're pushing greater rifts, you're gonna want Awareness and Call of the Week. Now, if you notice, none of my abilities slow enemies, not even my Evasive Fire, which is cold. None of my abilities do any kind of slow. So the only thing that slows is my Banana Trap. At rank 25, it produces an aura that's about 15 yards. That slows enemies, but you don't want to be within 15 yards because of your other gems. So what I do instead is I use the Scoundrel, okay, and I have, let's see here. Well, this crippling shot, which does damage, but it slows enemies by 80% for 4 seconds. And I use multi-shot, so he shoots out 3 bolts instead of 1, so I can hit 3 different targets. Now, if you're in a large group, that doesn't do a whole lot of good except for those 3 that it hits. So I equipped him with this. I don't even know how you say it. Brizo do whatever. Two-handed crossbow, which makes him pierce 2 additional targets. So he's actually hitting 9 targets at once, if all 3 hit. And it has a chance to freeze. So along with other things for my Scoundrel, I have the item that makes him so he doesn't die. I have Nagel Ring, just because these the little psychopaths that it summons, or lunatics, they actually do a decent amount of damage. They explode for about 20 million damage each right now, just with the higher you get your damage. If you can hit your Scoundrel's damage up to 1 million, these lunatics are going to hit easily for between 20 and 50 million damage. If you have 5 of them, that's a decent amount of chunk. The other ring, Unity, I just threw it on here because it's just an extra ring that I had, but you can use, like, a good one to use is Bokatho's Wedding Band, because it haunts nearby targets and does extra damage. Another ring, the amulet, this is my favorite amulet to put on a follower, is the Essence of Johan. Even though he's range, this still procs, and I'll proc at the enemy, not him. So, for instance, if I'm here and my Scoundrel shoots, the guy that's way over here, and it triggers that, it's going to suck in everybody around the enemy that it hit and pull them to there instead of to me over here, which binds them up, and then he shoots, slows them all, proccing my bandit trap. I multi-shot, one-shot them all. So it's a very good synergy with him. And the last ability that you can use is either Anatomy, or you can use Hysteria. Since you're critting pretty much all the time, that's extra 3% extra damage, but I want to crit more. So I use Anatomy for that extra 1.8. I'm bummed that they nerfed it. That used to be 3% back in vanilla. So that's the skill setup. For your Paragon points, you want to max out maximum hatred and movement speed, then put the rest in dexterity for your core. For offense, you want critical hit chance, critical damage. If you want, you can put it in cooldown reduction, just so you can have, you make your stuff go on cooldown a lot quicker. I just like more damage, and I've been doing fine in greater rifts, so I put it towards its attack speed for more damage. Defense, in this order, resist all armor, life, and then life per second. And utility, this is pretty self-explanatory. Life on hit, resource cost reduction, area damage, gold find. So, in terms of items, I'm going to look at the discipline items first. So, in the new patch, with the season, they made it so any bow, crossbow, and single hand crossbow can have a maximum of 12 discipline on it. So you're going to want to find one that has 12 discipline. Now, I really like the Cluck Eye, because this weapon, they buffed this weapon majorly, and it's really helpful in higher grade rifts. Crossbows two-handed crossbows are still really nice because they pack such a large punch. I can easily add 200 million to my crits if I switch to a crossbow, but I don't fire as often, so it kind of weighs itself. I can probably get, if I fire 10 shots, this will a bow will fire probably 2 more times than a two-handed crossbow, and I'm critting for 1.3 to 1.5 billion, so 3 billion damage. Let's round up. For 2 shots, okay, or an extra 1 billion damage from a crossbow. So it all depends on your scenario. Do you want to be able to one-shot higher grade rifts? Like I can one-shot stuff on rank 31 through 35, 2-shot things 39, and between 35 to 40 basically. If I use a crossbow, I can move that up probably by another 2 ranks. Not really worth it. Endgame, I like the Cluck Eye, because the passive on it, 48% chance to cluck when attacking. Now this isn't a joke. Well, it kind of is a joke, but it's also good at the same time. It doesn't just cluck. You do hear a clucking noise, but I never hear it. My other people hear it, but I have, the way I have my volume set up, I never hear the clucking, so it doesn't get annoying. But it shoots a chicken, and quite often, let's see, there's a chicken, there's another one, and there are times where it just shoots chicken after chicken after chicken. And what's nice is these chickens do 500% weapon damage. 500%. So I've seen them crit for about 100 million. On top of that, they knock up the enemy, and then they blind them for like a half second. Half second to a second, depending on what you're fighting. An elite pack or boss, or white, or just regular trash. So, that blind also procs your Bane of the Trapped. So if you're shooting something that your scout's not shooting, the chicken hits it, boom, extra Bane of the Trapped. And so it's just extra damage. Now, ultimately, your rolls on your weapon it's up for grabs, basically how you want it. The must-haves: socket, main stat, 12 discipline. The other 2 stats are really up to you. I prefer more damage, and I got this rolled with that life per hit on it, as you see, and so I kept that, and I opted to and it had area damage on it, so I rolled the area damage for 10% damage, and then I used a Ramalati's gift on it. This just maximizes my damage all around. It rolled pretty damn good, pretty much max on almost everything. So that's basically a weapon. I went a lot of details into weapons because there's so much versatility that you can do. There is another thing. Let's see if I actually have it. I might have one. Maybe I don't. Okay. I can't remember the name of it, but there's a bow that's a lightning bow. Increases lightning damage. It's not the Utreyu. Utreyu is the cold one, but there's a lightning bow that you can get that increases lightning damage by 20%. That bow is pretty much that can be useful. That bow and Crider Shot, depending on what you want to do. Most people use Crider Shot. Very rare people use lightning bow. So I should actually just eliminate lightning bow from this guide completely. So I won't need to go into that. Another build that you can do with the unhallowed essence is using not that one. Where'd it go? Oh, I must have salvaged it. But there is a quiver that you can get that makes lightning ball as your main attack. Elemental arrow, ball of lightning. Move like 40% slower. So you get, these are basically just one line. There's not even any space between them like you see here. And what they do is, as long as an enemy is within range, it'll keep zapping that same enemy. It will attack the same enemy multiple times as long as it's in range. So when you have 6 of these all grouped around one target, that's 6 of them hitting the same target, and you keep just adding more and more and more to it. Now, for like really high grader rifts in teams, if you're in a group, that's probably the better one to go with, just because it takes it does more damage, just because that's just how it operates. You're getting more hits off per shot than you are with this. This, you shoot once, that's it. With the other one, you shoot it, it's gonna zap at least twice. If you have the quiver, it's gonna zap probably 3, maybe 4 times, depending on how good your attack speed is. So that's 4 shots to 1. But the problem is, if you're soloing, it's not very viable, because they move so slow that if an enemy's over here and you shoot them here, it's going to take at least 10 seconds to get over there. And by that time, they're at you, which then you lose your unhallowed essence buff, you don't get the buff from your Zystone Vengeance, and it's just not good. So you need to have somebody that's keeping them at a distance while you're using them. So that's why I like using multi-shot, because I'm solo. So I'm still working on my gear. I'm trying to get ancient gear and a couple better pieces to increase my damage. If I can get my damage up to about 2.1 million, I'll be critting for almost 2 billion. And I want to actually ultimately be at 2.3 to 2.5 billion crits. That'll make it so I can do greater of 60 plus, or maybe just 60. But a Dead Man's Legacy is next. You can get 12 discipline on this. The only other item that you can get discipline on is your chest. You can get 12 discipline on this. Now there is a ring that you get, Manald's Heal. That gives 12 discipline as well, but you don't want to use it because you're going to be using the focus and restraint. So on your shoulders, basically you want Dex, Vit, All resist, I like all resist because it helps just survivability on elements and stuff. Gives me just like an extra quarter to half second extra, so that's time, enough time for me to respond to an element, an arcane beam or something like that, to get the hell out. And resource cost reduction. Now you can do 8% resource cost reduction, 8% cooldown reduction, absolutely, but I want a little bit of toughness. I want to stay above 10 million, so technically I could lose that all resist and still be above 10 million. The helmet, dex, crit chance, multi-shot damage, and socket would be ideal. Now the multi-shot you can replace with elemental arrow damage as well. For the chest, this is how I opted to build it, just because I chose to go with dex, vit, and hatred per second, along with 12 discipline and 3 sockets. The extra hatred generation really helps keeping up my my multi-shot. It really helps regenerate. So gloves, I chose not to go with, well, and also that's just how they rolled. But ultimately, wouldn't it be bad to have dex, resource cost reduction, attack, crit chance, and crit damage on it? That'd probably be the ideal gloves. I've found gloves that have that on it, but I chose to stay with this because this just gives me the toughness. I'm looking for ancient gloves right now. For your belt, witching hour is best in slot if you can find one. I've been lucky and I found 3, one on each character. One's an int, one is a dex, and one is a strength. So I have one for pretty much any class. Your pants. Now mine didn't roll the best. Ultimately, you don't want life per second. What you would really want to look for is dex, vit, all resist, or armor, either or. If you have a secondary that's an elemental resist, you cannot get all resist on the item, and that goes for any item. So in this case, if I was able to, I'd roll the life per second for armor, but it's just the RNG. So dex, vit, armor / all resist, 2 sockets. Boots, the same thing in this. Dex, vit, all resist / armor, whichever one you want, and then multi-shot. You get your movement speed 3 Paragon points, so that's key. So I talked about this, but I didn't go over the stats on this. Ultimately, I'm trying to find a new quiver so bad, because this one, I'm losing so much damage using this one. You want main stat, 20% attack speed, 10% crit chance, 15% multi-shot, 8% resource cost reduction, and 12 discipline. It's really hard to find all that, or at least, all but one of those things, so you can re-roll it. So for amulets, it really is up to you to... Hellfire amulets ultimately is the best amulet for this build. I haven't been farming them at all because I'm just so sick and tired of it. I've made tons of amulets, and I've only ever gotten one good roll as far as stats, but the passive was shit. So I just gave up making Hellfire amulets. But as you see, I don't have any main or secondary or a main stat or op stat, because you get more damage by doing it this way. The best amulet, so in this case you don't need ancient, which is really nice, is going to be elemental damage, 100% crit damage, 10% crit chance, socket. That's going to be your best amulet. Now if that fire damage that I have on there was, let's say, 750 dexterity, that's going to give me about 8% increased damage. What's better, 8% increased damage or 19% fire damage? Since all my skills that I use, my primary one's fire, I'm getting more damage upgrade by having the elemental. For bracers, Reaper's Wraps, fire, dex, fit, and crit chance are the best ones to do. Now, if you're using the Critashot build with a Ball of Lightning, you don't need these because Critashot generates hatred, so you're never going to run out of hatred. So you can use like a Lacuni's, probably the next best in slot. Well, actually will be the best in slot, because Lacuni's bracers, you can have elemental damage, main stat, vit, crit chance, and attack speed. Now steady strikers are another good one, but you can't have vit. So Lacuni's you can have up to 5 stats, primary stats, and steady strikers you can only have 4. So Lacuni's would be the best one you can. Actually, I have some, so I can actually show you. So as you see here, I got 19% physical, dex, fit, 7% attack speed, and crit chance. Those are pretty good. And I have another pair that rolled somewhat decent. So the Kunis always roll with attack speed and movement speed. They will always roll with that. So it's pretty easy to get a good pair. So for the rings, you want to use focus and restraint. This is the absolute best because it's simple. You auto attack once, and then just let them have it. And for the next 5 seconds, you're going to have 125% increased damage. The rings say it's going to be 50% from one, 50% from the other, but the way it actually adds up is going to be about 125%. Basically, you're going to want main stat, crit damage, crit chance, socket. Now, I have not been able to find a good restraint. I'm using a strength one, so this is giving me a decent toughness, but I'd much rather have the dexterity on it plus crit chance, crit damage, and socket. If I had that, that's about a 13% damage increase for me, and yeah, it'd be so nice. But the way this set works, so the first part of it, the first 50% damage increases your damage by 50%. Okay. So this isn't correct math, so don't like hate me or anything like that. But let's just say 50% makes it 2 million damage. Okay. So I'm at 2 million damage with the first 50%. The second 50% increases it by another 50. But it doesn't just take the 50 and then add 50 to it. What I'll do is the first 50% increases it by 2 million, then it's going to take that 2 million and increase it by another 50%. So ultimately that's about 125%. You're getting 50% more off of that 50% that had already got applied. So overall, that's pretty much how I have everything set up. This is the fire build, so I have 19 from percent fire from Lich, 19 from this. I don't have any other elements around. Another thing you could do, I don't think you're gonna have really good burst damage, but just your sustained damage isn't gonna be that good. Is you could do a Ring of the Warlord Grandeur, run a Cinder Coat, and then run a Ring of the Elements, conventional elements here. And because conventional elements always roll the crit chance, always. So it's really easy to get a good one. So you can always get one with crit chance and crit damage on it. I haven't re-rolled this one, so I could. But when it rolls to fire, you have 180% increased damage. 180% is more than this focus and restraint, but it only lasts for 4 seconds. Then you gotta wait 10 seconds before it rolls around again. So during those 4 seconds, you do insane damage, but after that, you lose that buff and you're just doing damage. But you doing that, you do increase your fire damage by another 20%, reduce you reduce the resource cost by 30%. So ultimately, that could work. But I like to have more sustained damage, so I go with focus and restraint. And if you look up on the leaderboard, see what everybody else is doing, most of the people in the higher greater risk 50 plus are running focus and restraint. So that's basically how you set up everything. I'm still low on dexterity. You ultimately want to be at 10,000 dexterity. But it's really hard because I'm losing like 750 at least from my amulet here. But if I were to get ancient everything else, I can easily get to 10,000 to 11,000 dex. So that's pretty much how I have that set up. Legendary potion, just use whichever one you like most. I like to use life over 5 seconds because this helps reduce dots that get put on me, such as the poison or reflect damage or anything like that. This just gives me that nice buff. You can use another good one is the amplification. Either these two, the amplification, the life on hit, or the regeneration. Those are going to be the best ones to use. So kind of just put this in action to show you how strong this build can really be. I'll just quickly kill a couple units. I won't do the whole rift. This video is getting a little bit long, but just kind of show you. Now, when you go, if you shoot barrels and stuff, this does proc your focus and restraint. If you watch down here, I shoot this barrel, focus is up, shoot that, the other one's up. But it does not reflect in here. So you're not going to see your damage increase here, but don't worry, it is increasing your damage. It is there. And see, you saw my follower just wound up. So T6 is pretty much a joke. I don't even proc the second half of my focus and restraint just because the initial part of my multi-shot is hitting for 300 to 500 million. Then the rockets themselves are hitting for 600 million. Now if you notice, the average creep, those have 14 million health, but let's take a look in here. Shield power, great. These guys, 90 million health. So I'm one-shotting them anyway. Let's see, that was Elite Pack, I one-shotted the Elite Pack. It makes it real simple to do this. Now because I have a grand total of 81 discipline, 81 times 15, that's the percentage that is being increased by my evasive fire and multi-shot. It's like 1,100 and some odd percent, or somewhere over 900 and some odd percent. So my rockets do 600% weapon damage, add another approximately an average, I don't know the exact numbers, 900% more to it. That's how much damage they're doing. My highest crit without anybody else's buff or pylons has been 1.562 billion. With other players, one of my friends uses DPS, I've hit well over 2 billion. And we just do greater rifts and we just push them. So far, with the current gear that I have, not having a good restraint ring, and a really bad Deadman's Legacy, and not having ancient gear in the other slots, I can do a maximum of Greater Rift 49 with this build. So I can easily do 40. 45 is actually incredibly easy. I just walk in there, shoot stuff, and just die. I don't even have to think. I don't have to apply any strategy to it. It's just so easy to kill them because they only have 1 to 2 billion health. If I'm critting for 1.3 to 1.5 billion, I shoot them twice, they're dead. So I don't need to worry about, kiting. And elite packs that do a little bit of kiting because it takes probably 3 or 4 hits for me to kill them. Maybe more depending on which elite pack you get to. But yeah, it's actually incredibly simple. But yeah, so that's going to wrap up this guide. I am going to do another guide, a T6 guide, because I was thinking going through different builds and seeing how much damage that I do. Actually, I forgot to go over my legendary gems. I'll do that real quick. But first, seeing how much damage I do, I can actually lose my focus and restraint and replace them with different rings. And doing that, I can actually modify different items that I use to actually increase either experience or magic find, depending which one you want, what you're trying to do, and make T6 efficient and have over 100 to 150% magic find, which is going to be part of a different guide, farming blues and legendaries as well. So before I go, pretty much these are the only gems you're going to want to use. Zionstone of Vengeance, because that's 32.25% increased damage at 50 yards, and it's so easy to hit enemies at 50 yards. That doesn't mean that if an enemy is 10 yards away from you, you're not going to get this bonus at all. No, you're going to do, at 10 yards, you're going to do 6.45% damage to that target. But with that same shot, multi-shot hits multiple targets. If it hits another target that's 50 yards away, it's going to do 32.25% damage to that unit far away, along with, and only do 6.5 to the unit that's only 10 yards away. So it treats it doesn't go by attack and the closest monster. It goes by how far away anything it hits is from you. Then it multiplies it equivalently. Band of the Trapped, obviously. Real simple because your follower procs it. If you're in a group, your ZDPS is going to proc it as well. So that's an extra 28.80% damage there. And Bane of the Powerful. This is absolutely a no-brainer. Right off the bat, 15% extra damage towards elites. That's just a no-brainer. On top of that, killing the elite pack increases damage by another 20%, which really makes killing the next elite pack even easier. So it's actually really good to get this leveled up, even though it only increases the duration. But I have it over a minute right now. But at rank 44, that's going to be 77 seconds, and I can actually get my gems up to rank 50 because of the greater rifts that I can do. So that's almost a minute and a half. That's a minute and 4 seconds or something. So you're going to find another elite pack within a minute and 20 seconds. And ultimately, with this build, it's so easy to kill elite packs. I don't skip them. Even on greater rifts 48 and stuff, I don't skip them. I kill them, and it's easy to kill them Because if you run past them, this is the problem that with the Demon Hunter at least. When you run past them, it's really hard to find a good spot to stop running, because when the density is so thick that, and you vault and you get away from the elite pack, but then all of a sudden there's 100 guys surrounding you. There's no way you can tank 100 guys. So it's best just to kill everything as it comes. You know, you just gotta kite, be wary of the fixes that the elites have, and just do your best. So I hope you guys enjoyed this guide for the Unhallowed Essence. Yeah, I'll be doing another guide, and like I said, I'll be doing a T6 guide and kind of reworking the items a little bit, and I will do a Greater Rift, just kind of playthrough for you guys, just so you can see how I use this set to my advantage. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, like and subscribe, leave a comment if you have any suggestions or any questions about what I've been talking about. And again, thanks for watching, and see you guys later.